Sarah, if you could introduce Jackie and Ed, that would be amazing.
Sure. Jackie and Ed grew up in Elizabeth. I would say with us, with my sister, because I was younger. I was little. I'm the little one. Ed, were you older then? Okay. So Jackie, you graduated with my sister, and Ed, you were
A
the
year
older
older.
I being the young
I was
girl.
90.
I get it.
Graduated
Get
in
it.
90, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for a second I thought you were being funny saying that you were 90 years old. Okay.
We are
So
years
far,
old.
I'm killing the intro. So
Doing
anyway,
great.
we are interviewing Jackie and Ed because their son Tanner was diagnosed with bipolar, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So he had some struggles for quite some time before his diagnosis. And then was it in September of last year?
23. Yeah.
Okay, September of last year. And here's where I get bad with the terminology. Tanner passed away from suicide. Is that
Yes.
how that's the terminology we want to use?
Yes.
Okay. And I feel like we should keep that in there in some better way because I feel like that's something that was new to me and something that I think our listeners can learn from. This is something that we want to do going forward. We don't want to refer to it as committed suicide. It's died from
Correct.
suicide, passed away from suicide. That's
Yes,
correct?
you're trying to get away from the stigma of being a crime or a sin or something like
Okay.
that.
And that's what I thought. I was telling someone else about it and they asked why. And I told them I was going to ask you guys. So that's perfect. But that was my assumption. That's what we want to do.
We honestly
Anyway,
didn't know about it until we had that happen to us. I don't know how long they've been trying to move it towards that, but I do think it's fairly new.
yeah, that makes sense. But when we started the mental funny bone, I believe, Christine, you reached out to Jackie and Ed, or did you guys just see it on Facebook that we were starting it and it being about mental health? Why don't, oh, okay.
Other
So go
way.
ahead.
So Jackie and Ed posted about March 4th, and I think we had done one episode, Sarah, but we hadn't actually put it out there yet. So this was even like pre-mental funny bone launch. So it was before we talked about it on Facebook. Looking at what Jackie and Ed were doing, I was like, yeah, I should definitely help because that sounds like when Jackie started talking about what they were doing with going and trying to help Western Psych make intake patients a little bit more comfortable, it just struck a chord because watching Olivia go through
might
that,
have
I
been
was
our
like,
first actual donation.
oh, so that was it. And yeah, I feel like what you guys are doing is amazing. And I definitely wanted to help out. And then as we got more into it, Sarah, it was like Jackie and Ed and you and I were going in step, right? Like
Yeah.
they were giving away hoagies at Chipotle and we were announcing things on Facebook. So there was a lot of cross March 4th and mental funny bone pathways. So I think that's how we ended up getting back in touch. And Jackie and I probably had 11, 12 conversations in high school, and I was terrified of Ed.
How could you be terrified of him?
I was in that
Which
gang.
he was in that gang.
The gangs of Elizabeth. It cracks me up because I just really met you guys last week and I can't imagine you being afraid of Ed in any way whatsoever.
He's literally the easiest person to like in the world, Christine. He liked everybody and anybody.
You are
I
just
had a lot
such
of
a puss.
I honestly
for no reason.
Right. I'm shy now. Back then I could barely get 3 words out before I had to lay down under a desk.
I know.
I mean,
I could all do that to ourselves. That's one thing. Like you always criticize yourself. But that's why you read Subtle Art of Giving a Fuck, because people don't really notice the things you're worried about yourself.
Not at all.
Exactly.
I am about who you didn't need to be worried about him.
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, I didn't need to be worried about any of those people in the Elizabeth gang.
No, not at all.
In the Elizabeth gang. Before we move on, I would like to note that I knew Jackie's name because I was in love with her brother for a second when I was in 9th grade. So that's a big deal. And yeah. So
and I love that.
That's actually how I knew your name too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother. I would have friends over there always hanging out with my brother. I'm like, what the heck?
It was great when we were dating and I had this cool guy to hang out with and go fishing, and then I could come home to my girlfriend. So it was
like
the best
hours later. I'm like, what the heck, John? Can you please quit playing with Ed?
You got to hang out with this adorably cute guy. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Someone make me go to the wrestling matches because, I should go support him, which I wanted to.
Yeah.
But so Ed had to come with me. Otherwise, we wouldn't see each other. And then he got hooked on that too. So.
Yeah. You thought ballet was revealing?
Oh,
Go to
wow.
all those wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Those little
And-
singlets. Isn't that what
Yeah.
they call
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. You know what that is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably because I was
course she-
stalking John Withrow trying to learn everything I can learn about wrestling.
Blocks and
take down 2 points.
that's pretty good.
I unlocked a memory after we had dinner with you guys. Lynn Doherty and I were the statisticians for the wrestling team, I think, senior
were you?
year.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Thank God for Lynn Doherty.
Right.
She was the closest you got to cool. I don't mean that against any of your other friends. So I like you too.
I had cool friends. I just wasn't cool. Like, we're all in that best and most thingy, like most
Yeah.
talented, most likely to succeed. But I was also most likely to fall down from embarrassment if anyone talked to me in the hallway. They don't have that.
They don't have podcasts though, and you do. So
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So you are most likely to succeed.
yeah.
Look at you.
At a
Killing it.
podcast. But why would I? Oh, I had a crush on a wrestler too, whose name I
Which
can't remember.
Really?
I don't remember who the wrestlers were even. I was so
No.
bored at those wrestling matches.
Right. And that might have been why I just never worked up the nerve to talk to anybody, because I was like, this is fucking boring. Just pin him down, for God's sake.
Right.
Yeah, and Jackie, I can imagine that might be disturbing looking at your brother in one of those little singlets.
I didn't think of it that way, hopefully.
Oh my God. Things were going to cut out.
It's
Weird.
funny because I became a huge wrestling fan from having to go and watch John. Like, I started paying attention to the point system, and even now I still watch college wrestling and enjoy it just from that. Where she was like, I would just go to hang out with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jackie, just give me that. Pin him. Get the hell out of here.
Right, just win.
Yes, it doesn't matter how much you weigh. Like, there was a lot of focus on how much you weigh and
Oh,
how
yeah.
much sweat you had to remove, and
To
cookies made
the
with
right weight.
X-Lax.
No.
Yeah.
It was complex. Yeah, Steve Kaskowski. Is that a person?
Oh
Yeah, I
yes,
remember
yes. He was
Yeah.
in. I believe he was in my
I think he
grade. I
was.
think.
Yeah. Yes.
Is he
So
Eric's big brother?
Is there an
Maybe.
Eric Kaskowski?
Eric
He wasn't-
Kaskowski?
I think he was heavyweight. Steve.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
He was
So
good
he would go
guy.
at the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did
Right,
Steve go to
which-
St. Michael's with us? Because Eric went to St. Michael's.
Yes, they were St. Michael's kids.
Eric passed away.
What?
Really. Oh.
He played hockey, and I think maybe he had some issues. I don't know how to put that without getting hit a lot and having some head trauma.
Oh.
I may have totally made that up, but I know that he definitely passed away. I went to his funeral, so I know that.
Aw.
Did
So,
you
yeah.
guys go to?
Stop.
Did you
I
guys go
don't-
to St. Michael's on Town Hill or the? Yeah. Oh,
Catholic girls.
Wow.
that
For
explains
the best
it.
kind.
Yeah.
because I didn't meet you. What grade did you go there till, Chris?
6th. So
Yes, I
I
feel
didn't.
like I didn't meet you till middle school.
All right. I think we have told all the funny stories about our gangs of Elizabeth. I've revealed too much information about my anxiety as a child. So I think, Jackie and Ed, why don't you tell us about Tanner and about Morgan and what they were like as kids and teenagers?
So Tanner was always like a cute kid. He was cute when he was born. He had a cute sense of humor. He was naturally smart. He was like didn't study but get 4.0 kind of kid, and he wasn't really in that much trouble that much. He had a close group of just a few friends. He didn't have a ton of friends. What else? He had his like own eBay business in like middle and high school, which he did really well at. And then he graduated EF. He got a 4.05, I think, when he graduated, and he was accepted and started at Pitt Business School in 2018.
He's following in his uncle's footsteps.
Yeah, he looked up to John a lot. They like would talk to each other and get ideas, and John would give him ideas. It was cool. Like, we hoped that someday he would work with him or for him or something. He also excelled in swimming. He was on the swim team. He was a lifeguard for a little while. He really liked that job. What else? He was good big brother to Morgan. He was always like protective of her, and they were really close. She was like a little mother to him. She was 2 years younger, but she would like act like his mom, but it was like endearing to both of them. They were actually good about it. with each other. When he got sick later, it was hard for her, and she tried to do as much as she could to help him and help us.
There was definitely nothing that growing up that you would think that it was a mental illness. I think that's where we ran into the problem when he came to us at around 15, stating that he had like vague symptoms of like visual snow, something I never heard of, or like ringing in the ears and not being able to concentrate. And in my head, I thought, I'm sure we just take him to the doctors and they're going to figure out what it is. And each time it was like, you're a healthy young kid, blood work and everything comes back fine. So you want things to be fine. And part of you thinks possibly maybe he's really nothing is wrong because he's excelling at school and you don't really know how he's actually feeling. But he knew early on at 15 that something wasn't right.
Like he was searching a lot of stuff online, like these weird symptoms. And we thought maybe he was just like going down rabbit holes. You know how you do, like you have a headache or you have a brain tumor, that kind of thing. So not that we were blowing it off, but we were like, it's okay, Dan, you're fine. Like, you're good. I think when he was 16, he came to us like one night, we were watching TV or something, like super upset. Like he thought he basically had Alzheimer's, some kind of syndrome like that. He just was used to being able to excel at school, think straight, get good grades. And then he was having so much trouble. It was like a big change for him in his mind. We ended up neuro doctor. He had a brain MRI. He had eye tests, ear tests, blood work, more blood work. I'm trying to think. I wrote some things down just want to make sure. He had consults to like a couple different doctors. Everything kept checking out. We saw our PCP, everything. So we had to think, what else do we do? We go back to the PCP and maybe he needs like ADHD testing, like maybe late onset ADHD or something like that. Because he did have some little bit of symptoms like that. And I know it can be out in different ways, but he was like always a procrastinator. And I know that was one thing. Like he would do projects, school papers, everything. Like the night before, I'm up at like midnight, like trying to do papers. So I'm thinking maybe it is something like that we're missing. So he had testing for ADHD. That was negative. So it was like a full blown test. So she basically came up generic anxiety and depression. I feel like that's all they say when they don't know what else to do. He started to see a therapist and a psychiatrist, but a little bit, unfortunately, I think the psychiatrist that they sent us to was like more of a holistic thing, which he like bit onto. Like he was doing these supplements and these vitamins and diet, which I know can help, but he went off the deep end with it, basically.
This psychiatrist believed that Tanner was feeling the way he was because it started in his gut. And so everything became Whole Foods spending hundreds of dollars. None of this stuff was covered by insurance, which was fine. So we were doing whatever we needed to do. It just really wasn't helping. You know,
he was taking like digestive enzymes, all these things I never even heard of really. And then he started him on this thing called AIP diet because he thought maybe it was something autoimmune. And that's an autoimmune. What's the I stand for? I forget. Paleo diet.
It was like an elimination diet. Like possibly because he's eating tomatoes that have lectin in it, that he could be feeling this way. And that's probably what sent him down the rabbit hole of extreme diets and thinking that he's feeling this way because of something he's eating or a household chemical. And that was pretty much where that ended as far as like us doing anything. And then he was at the age where he was self-helping, reading on Instagram, just doing different things that
at this point he's 19 years old in college and we're losing that connection, that control of helping him navigate things. So he started like on his own, even though we were close by. But at one point Ed was like cooking these AIP meals. He was in a dorm that year and like taking them down to him at college. But in the end, it really wasn't helping. Like he was coming home every weekend. You could tell he was depressed. There was a couple times I took him to the doctor from school. Like I just was so worried about him. And then COVID hit. So basically the therapist stopped seeing him. The doctor couldn't see them. He couldn't go to school. He didn't do well on online school at the time. He ended up dropping out of school. And now we're like, what do we do now? Like,
I will say the one good thing that came from COVID is Morgan had a birthday party at our house during COVID. And that's where Tanner met his girlfriend that was a good friend of Morgan's. That's where they met. So that was a very good thing for him and us because she was very good with him. And that was one good thing that came
plus,
from
I don't know. I'm just happy he had the experience. Like he loved her. Like he bought an engagement ring for her. It was in our safe. He wasn't ready to get married to her, but he wanted to someday. And I'm so happy he at least got to experience that. And she's been a godsend to us too. It's just good to have her. She helped him through a lot. And he helped her through a lot. She admits that too. Like she was having mental struggles herself. So it was just like a good fit for them.
Yeah, she stayed with him probably when a lot of girls, especially young girls her age, would have bailed because they're used to being taken out to dinner and going to movies. And he was just depressed that he really wasn't doing those things. So I guess maybe fast forward to when.
Like every weekend taking him back to school on Sunday was just like he did not want to go. He was depressed. He just wanted to stay home, like in his room, basically. And he would get us so worried. Like we were just going back and making him go there. And then it almost was a blessing a little bit that COVID happened because he didn't have to do that every weekend. Like we couldn't figure out like why you're a young kid, you're in college, go have fun. But he was not having any fun. It was like this much fun.
And you guys had gone through all the medical causes of this, right? So that's how, like, it's not a brain tumor. It's not a broken leg. It's not a thing that you could find on an MRI or a CAT scan, or it's nothing like that. And then you're getting him in therapy and you're taking him to a psychiatrist. And I think just one point about the psychiatrist and the therapist, it isn't a one size fits all. From our experience with Olivia, and from my own experience, I went to 3 before I found a therapist that I liked. And I've been to 2 different psychiatrists because one was like, okay, how many pills, how much prescription do you need? And I'm like, I really want you to think about what's wrong with my brain before you do that. And I think that's something that I think people, this is going to be terrible for me to say out loud, and I might have to go lay down after. People our age tend to look at doctors more, shut up, Sarah. Look at doctors like, yeah, you're invincible. You know exactly what we should be doing. And of course, you're the doctor and I'm going to listen to you. But I think sometimes when we're talking about mental health, that just doesn't apply. You got to take them on and off like shoes.
Like looking back on it, I wish I knew more then. I wish they knew more then. I wish there was more education, like even the PCP realm that would know like some of these really early symptoms, because they really didn't send us to the right avenue. Of course, you want to clear out anything medical first. So, I mean, obviously, if there's a brain tumor that's causing something, you want to get that taken care of. But if all that checks out, they should go a little stronger. I guess she tried by the ADHD testing, but I just feel like there were more red flags that they missed that we wish they would have caught early.
And I will say, I did appreciate the psychiatrist not just medicating Tanner. It's okay if this is something that can be fixed without medication, but I think it was just far past of what Tanner was actually dealing with that we really didn't quite know about, nor did he. And ultimately, that is what sent him down the rabbit hole.
And speaking of that, like we were butting heads at the time too, because then he was home from school. He wasn't helping around the house. We were spending all this money on this raw diet and paying all the bills. And it was just a little bit of a rough time at home for us. And we didn't understand at the time, like what was going on. So we were kind of like each getting on each other's.
Yeah. I was like, you're a 20-year-old kid. Why can't you go out and get a job? If you're not going to do college, you need to be working. That's just how it goes. But he just really wasn't able to. And we didn't know that.
And then, I guess, sorry, go ahead.
That's universal, I think. Looking at trying to tease apart what I need to ride Olivia about and what I need to let go because it's just her brain. ADHD looks like laziness a lot from the outside. Depression looks like laziness a lot from the outside. And Olivia's pretty smart, so she's pretty savvy at being like, oh, but I have a mental illness.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it's my job to be like, fuck you, go clean your room. Let's do body doubling and I will walk with you while we go and do this next task. I think a lot of parents of kids with mental issues struggle with that same thing. Like, this isn't the same as going at like teenage angst and them
Right.
just rebelling. This is their brains, and it's
And it
really
is
hard to
take
tease that out.
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Fuck off. Can I mute you?
No, you can't mute me. I can mute you if I want to.
I want to go back. I just want to take a step back real quick because Ed, you had mentioned ringing in the ears and then something with the vision. Can you tell me more about that? Is that one of the earlier things that was happening? What age was that happening? And
that was like the first
Yeah.
symptoms he came with were that like he's always had ringing in his ears from when he was young. He had a lot of ear infections little. He was on a lot of antibiotics. I thought that was causing that and I was blowing it off, but it was like if that was from it, you can't really do much to fix it, to help it. But I've heard ringing in the ears is very hard to live with just in itself. But then he started complaining this vision. He called it visual snow. He saw it online. It's like a static view. And I was listening to a webcast about psychosis, and they said that is one of the earlier signs that can happen in these weird like visual fields and also ear ringing. I don't know how that happens, but it can happen in some people.
I was just curious because that's very, I don't know. I have a kid that complains about everything.
Yeah, I know. It's hard.
And that's where it becomes tough, is because if he came in here right now and said, Mom, my ears are ringing, I'd be like, yeah, okay, you're fine. How do you take something that simple? And it's hard. It's hard. Again, I'll go back to what we've said 1,000 times on the podcast. We said it several times last week. It's so much easier if there's just a bone sticking out of your arm or out of your skin.
That's what we're looking for someday, like better tests, earlier tests, genetic testing, different scans. And they are doing research with those things, but they're just still way far behind.
Right.
The diagnosis earlier would be amazing if they could do that. And then the treatment realm we can go into later, but that earlier and better would be amazing too.
Yeah. Luckily Olivia's PCP was really good about picking up on things that I was ignoring because I was a tiger mom for a bit. Like we would go to the pediatrician and they have a little form to fill out and she's circling all the frowny faces and then drawing arrows towards the opposite side of the paper. Like, you don't have a frowny face that looks sad enough to tell you how I feel.
Oh, that is
and and the pediatrician's, let's just talk about that a little bit. And I'm like, she's probably sad because she didn't do her homework.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
So easy to blame it on any of that. And I understand that.
Especially when they're living they're like going to school, getting good grades. So you think if something was really wrong, you wouldn't be a 4.0 student in normal, whatever.
But thank God he was like, a little therapy doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt anybody.
The therapist was really good fit. It was more the psychiatrist that wasn't. But then she just basically shut down at COVID and wouldn't see him at all. Or I lied. She would see him on Zoom, but he wouldn't go on Zoom. So they were just, he's, I don't need it anyways. I just won't go. So that probably into spring was really hard.
Yeah. Olivia really struggled when she went away to school to find a therapist because I can't make the appointments for her anymore. I can't even talk to the doctors about her anymore because because she's 18.
Yeah.
They're like, are you calling to make an appointment for her? I'm like, yeah. They're like, she has to call us. I was like, great. Now she's just going to avoid that. Yeah. Until you can get them to take care of their stuff, all you can do is like nag the shit out of them. Did you make an appointment? Did you make an appointment? You should make an appointment.
They
Please make an appointment.
They really,
yeah, that doesn't push on any depression, anxiety, ADHD triggers for Olivia either.
Yeah. He got to the age where he realized, wait, you mean I don't have to get the flu shot? Because that's when he was like thinking that the stuff that was going into his body is what caused him to feel this way. So he quit basically even going to doctors and didn't get flu shots, or
he wouldn't even take Tylenol, nothing.
He actually at one point blamed us for getting his tonsils removed because he thought that we shouldn't have taken something naturally from him.
And he didn't like that we gave him antibiotics when he had strep throat 10 times. And he thought that was causing him trouble. He just had so many. He kept just trying to figure out why was going on. We were in the same boat. And honestly, it was a little bit like, it was hard. It was just exhausting. We couldn't find anything wrong. And
Right.
none of it made sense that he was making up. But I guess, who knows?
It would be, I'm really looking forward to seeing all of that research move forward and having the PCPs have a little bit more awareness of the fact that if I can't find anything wrong with your body, maybe it's your brain.
Right.
And just have those conversations, because that is what got me to understand what was wrong with Olivia, because the pediatricians, it's probably real. It's probably depression.
They had better
Take care of
screening.
her.
It sounds like yours had good screening tools to have, even the faces.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah.
Every time we went. Yeah, I'm
And
looking
now
forward to
Owen
that.
goes in and they give him an iPad and he has to, I'm not allowed to look at it. He has to fill all of that in himself. And that's what it is. It's basically
Stuff like
the faces and
a lot of it's
doing
suicide risk assessment too. And they're doing those a lot more.
It was nice. Of course, when I'm watching her fill it out, I'm like, are you sure you feel that way? You don't want to put one smiley face? And for me, it was not really understanding mental health issues and correlating the fact that Olivia was depressed with me failing as a parent. And that's just completely, that's just completely down.
Like, you want to help your kid. I'm a nurse. Like, how did I miss signs or other things? Like, you do feel, and he was blaming us for things we did from him growing up too. And we're like, maybe we shouldn't have did that. Like, I would just had your best interest in mind. I would never want to do anything to hurt you.
One that sticks out to me is that I gave him and Morgan toaster strudels for breakfast. You should have never given me that. That's
processed food.
Yeah, like processed that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But real talk, you guys. Is there any better food other than the icing that comes with a toaster strudel?
Especially when you got to do spelling words and get them out the door.
Oh, man, honestly.
But I guess after COVID stuff, and then he like worked on and off at UPS. Then he like didn't work for a long time. And we're like, you have to get a job, blah, blah, blah. So my aunt worked in furniture in like the beginning of 2022. He started working there and he was doing a really good job, but we didn't know it was because he was manic at the time.
Yeah.
And he was on, nothing could go wrong. He was doing so good as a furniture mover to take out the people's cars. And he was just not acting right that whole week. He broke up with Veda. He said they weren't on the same like wavelength and that he thought they should break up, and he wasn't sleeping well. He wasn't eating much. He was just like being very strongly like against certain things, like the electric plugs.
A lot of Veda, their relationship then was like, if they were going to get married and have kids, if they wanted their kids to be vaccinated or not because of COVID and whatnot. He was completely against it. She stood firmly for it. So not that they were butting heads, but it just, that's when they broke up. And he would come home from work very, what I thought was like excited about work, but I didn't know that he was manic at the time because seen that or heard of it and didn't really know what it was, but that's what it was.
Yeah, the week after he started working there, he woke me up. It was like a Sunday morning. Ed was at work actually. And he was like freezing cold. I'm like, why are you so cold? He said, I was taking a walk. I'm like, what? You don't usually get up before 11. I mean, he did have to work that day at noon, I think. I'm like, why are you up already taking a walk? And then he told me that he had heard dark spirits telling him to kill people and someone at work. And he's, don't worry, Mom. I would never do that. It was just heartbreaking. I just didn't expect it. I've heard of people having that happen. I've heard it in the textbooks. I never expected it to happen to my kid. Like, it was very devastating that morning. Yeah, I didn't know what to say to him. I basically said, this is serious. Tell me what happened. He was just like toting around it a little bit. I'm like, I got to call Dad to come home. I said, we should take you to be checked out. He's, no, I don't need checked out. Don't worry. I'm okay. Like, I won't do anything. I'm not listening to them. I'm like, but you're having them. It's like something we have to do.
Yeah. Was this at the end of the manic episode?
It was like maybe a week into the manic episode, which he was so manic. It can cause you to go into psychosis if you're like really manic and he hadn't slept for 48 hours. Probably we didn't realize, but then afterwards we figured it out.
That's what I think that I know myself. I probably don't understand enough about a manic episode because I'm always like, I'm manic, making jokes about myself or something. I don't really know what's included or what comes from a manic episode. So now I'm learning from you guys is that he was just up.
Yeah. Like he could not sleep. He was just, his thoughts were like racing. And he would go to tell you something, it didn't make sense. And then he would just stop and stare like he was trying to figure out what he had started saying to finish it. But then he'd start something else that didn't make sense, or he'd repeat it or repeat something we said. And it was just like scary as hell, basically.
You did.
And then the voices happened during that.
Yeah, that at a certain point, like it just gets so much, your brain is just going. So I guess that's when the voices come.
Part of that was like intrusive thoughts. So he's hearing people actually telling him to do things. And as a parent, you hear so much on the news about that type of stuff happening, where people that can't fight these feelings, that with the mental illnesses, that go into malls and shoot up places. So we were like, we can't just let you we just can't let this happen, where we don't either call the police or something to where, and at that point he just left the house, packed up and left, and we called the police.
He wrecked his car on the way out he ran into the house, but then he kept going, just dragging like part of his car. They found him, but he knew enough to not tell them what was happening. I just got to fight with my parents. I can't go home right now. And he's now 22 years old. They told him, we can't arrest you, but you can't drive this car. So he had a friend come pick him up, and they were gone for hours. He wouldn't answer any of our calls, any of our texts. My dad tried. We tried. Finally did answer a call from my brother, John, because they were like really tight. Just because they had a lot of similar wavelength stuff. He did answer a call from him. John was home. He lives in Minnesota now, but he was home to visit his wife's family. And thank God, because he met us at our house with him, and we took a walk, and we were trying to talk him through things, just to have another person to help us navigate what the heck was going on. To be honest, Tanner was he could have acted on those voices that morning, and I wouldn't be here right now. It's just such scariness that you have to think about of what all is happening.
And you guys did such a good job just for you guys to be in the moment and understand that this is happening. I can't pretend that Tanner isn't having sort of a psychotic break. I can't pretend that this isn't happening, and we have to do what we can to take care of Tanner and take care of everybody else. So that is amazing. I don't know if I could be that strong, but
I still cry thinking about it. And sometimes it would go through my head, like, what could I have done different? What could we have helped better? But in the end, we were able. He didn't want to do anything that night. He did not sleep all night. That was like the third night he hadn't slept. This was like a Sunday night into Monday. He said, we called Resolve Crisis Center, and he wouldn't answer their call. They said we could bring him there. He wouldn't go. They said they could come to our house, and he finally agreed to that Monday morning. So there are those resources out there. I will say they are very stretched. We told them what was happening, and they said, we'll get someone out there. And it was literally 8-9 hours later. They called us a couple different times, said, you still need someone to come? We're like, yes, we do. He was calm mostly that day. We were just trying to keep him calm. But when they came, he was just not himself at all. He was totally psychotic at that point, saying inappropriate things that were not himself. And they kept saying, you should go be seen. And he kept saying, no, I don't need to be seen. But he didn't tell them that he heard voices or that he would hurt anybody. So they couldn't take him or call to have him taken. He has to have those words, like, basically, I'm going to hurt someone or myself. And he wouldn't say any of that. He knew not to say that.
That's another thing that we learned during this, is that what he was going through and what he said, without a plan, they couldn't take him. If him just saying I had voices to hurt or kill somebody doesn't mean anything unless if he had a plan to do it. Which at the time was really weird to me, that even the cops, knowing that he said that, there was nothing they could really do because he didn't have a plan.
And he said I wouldn't listen to them, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But it kept getting worse.
Who knows this stuff? That's
the first time this happens to anyone, I can't imagine. Oh. And then, so they were going to leave, and they were giving me the information to, if I needed to 302 him that night, because it seemed like he just kept getting worse and worse. And he came running out to the car and said, I'll go. I need help. She's like, go now, go, like literally leave.
Put him in the car, go. Okay, just one question.
Go ahead.
What's 302? I know, but it would be nice to have you guys just explain it.
like to involuntary commit him to a psychiatric facility without him doing it himself.
Which
That's
is a lot.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Ed, you
Yeah,
finish.
I was going to. Another thing that I didn't realize is that is like a legal thing. Like Jackie was on the phone with a judge at midnight. I think was it like 3 at the hospital?
Because we got him down there. We didn't think he would go in. We had never been. I work in Oakland, but I've never been in the lobby of Western Psych. They had several years ago someone come in and had a deadly shooting in there. So they have it completely locked down. You go through a metal detector, you get rid of everything, whether you're a visitor or patient, everything goes. Like you walk in with yourself. That's it. I thought he was going to turn around and not go in, because once you go in, you're not coming back out until they assess you. But he did go in, thank God. And then we got up to the ER. I don't know. Sure, there's people out there who haven't been in that ER. It's scary too. There's windows all around a big room, and you're in the middle with the patients, and the staff are on the other side of the windows, basically just coming in and out as they need to, but they're mostly over there and you're over here. And he was just pacing and wanting to go home, and he wouldn't take any medicine. He wouldn't sign himself in. Like the doctor taught, if you're in psychosis, they basically will admit you at that point. It's not a suicide risk. It's a treatment need at that point. But he should have agreed to it, getting treatment, and he would not sign it. So finally I had to 302 him then. And that's when I had to go in front of a judge. And you still have to say the right words to the judge to get them to keep you. And I don't even remember what I said at this point. It was so hard. And I was just saying he said he was having voices to hurt somebody. He's not himself. He said in the waiting room of the emergency room that he killed the one girl that was laying there sleeping. Like he is spiraling. Right. So they did keep him.
Yeah, that is that. Even just that piece of it, to understand that when they get admitted, when they can admit themselves, when to do it. When we went through this with Olivia, she was 14, which she had just had a birthday. So she was just 14. And that's the age where they can sign for where they have to sign for themselves. Yes. And she was like, what if I don't want to go? I'm like, you want to go.
We kept just saying, let's just go get checked out. It's okay. Let's get checked out. Just see what they say. But he wasn't buying it.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm just going to sign you in because you're my kid. And the lady was like, no, can't do it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. What are you talking about? I won't even let her pick out what she's going to eat for dinner.
Right? Yeah, I'm doing his laundry. Like,
what are you talking about?
His gut cheese, man.
Another thing that kind of not helped, but the judge take it into account is that he hadn't slept or eaten really in 2 days. So that is not taking care of himself. So in a way that is hurting himself. That was really the key that got us going, because 3 days later, after the 3-day hold of a 302, then you have to go in front of the judge again. And the doctor we did it all online at the time. I don't know if they still are, but we basically had to say why he was in there and if he needed to stay or if he was being held against his will and had to be sent back home. But between the doctor and me, they kept him.
Yeah, the doctor pretty much stated that I need more time with him because we knew Tanner wasn't acting right or that he did drugs or anything, but the doctors were starting at zero. They had no idea why he was acting that way. So they were just starting at baseline. They didn't know Tanner. So he basically said, I need more time with him to figure out what's going on. There was actually a time that his mercury level was high because he was eating a lot of raw fish on the raw diet. So they thought possibly it could have been something with the mercury that was acting him to cause that way.
But they had, I forget the doctor, what it is, that deals with the poisoning side. I know there's a name for them, but he basically said Asian people that eat raw fish all the time have higher mercury levels than this without having psychosis. So that was ruled out. But they also had to drug test him to make sure that he wasn't on drugs at the time causing this, because that can cause it too. Oh, that was negative. But they do have to go through each step. Different labs can cause different things, like your thyroid level out of whack. I didn't know that could make you seem like you have something else going on mentally, but it's really your thyroid just needs adjusted or something like that.
Yeah, the whole intake process is something that you can't begin to appreciate until you've gone through it. And if you're 99% of parents out there, you've never done this before. This has never even been in your realm of understanding. I feel like, having been a big sister to Sarah, like if you would have asked me at the beginning of it, I would have been like, oh yeah, I know. I'm like an ally. I know shit about mental health. Like, I'm on it. But even that, I was like, oh, what is happening? And Western Psych has excellent care, excellent physicians, but it is a freaking scary place.
Yes.
Very.
Yeah, I'm happy that he was there. The doctor and the social worker on his inpatient floor were amazing. They were so good. The doctor was amazing. They talked to us as many times as we wanted to. We had a couple meetings. They emailed, called us. And that's another thing. Adult child is in Western Psych. They have to give consent that anyone can give you information or even say that you're there. So we left at 4 a.m. at the ER and he hadn't had a bed yet. So we left and came back. He's still in the ER, like in some other room, like sleeping on this cot. And then we went to eat dinner and we came back and we're like, oh, Tanner. They're like, oh, we can't tell you where he is because he didn't sign consent yet. We're like, literally, we were just here an hour ago. Where could he have gone in an hour?
You see me. Like, I was just there.
He was in psychosis, so signing a consent was.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Meaning.
Yeah, obviously, we wanted to know what was going on with him, and we didn't know.
But they did finally let us go up and see him for a minute. He was we should back up a tiny bit. Since he wasn't taking any meds at all, they were trying to give him like Haldol and Ativan in the ER just to calm his thoughts down, get him to sleep. He just needed to sleep some. He was like fighting tooth and nail to take that. We got in the ER at 9. I think he finally took it at 3 or something. He finally let the nurse give it to him. And it's because they only let one person up at there at a time with a patient. But since he cleared the ER out and it was just him left, they let me come up. And we're just like, Tan, take it for us, please. We need you to sleep. We want you to feel better. I'm like, can you just take it for Dad? So he finally did. And then he was just sleeping for 24 hours. So when we got up to the room where he was just conked out sleeping, so we just saw him for a minute, then went back home.
Yeah, he was there for a month of just trial and error type medicine. Right. Starting a medicine, it not working. And it was a long process of him just being in there to figure out not only him. When we met with his doctor, and his doctor basically said it could be up to 6 months before we have a diagnosis. Yeah. Just because of the medications and schizophrenia and bipolar kind of
overlap a lot.
Look alike.
And he said they don't have clear testing to see which it is, that only can see what meds work better than others. And lithium seemed to work best for him, which is a mood stabilizer. So that's why they were going on a bipolar route for him.
Yeah, so he was sent home, kind of a diagnosis of bipolar, being on the lithium and the antipsychotic. But then he was doing okay, enough to where they weaned him off of the antipsychotic and he was just on the lithium.
It had a lot of side effects too. Yeah. The antipsychotics had way more side effects than the lithium seemed to be pretty good. They just make you feel like disassociated, like you're just almost like you're not where you are, and then like weight gain.
Yeah, I think more for him, it was just cognitively.
Yeah.
He knew he wasn't the Tanner that he cognitively could be and that he was. And so he basically went off of that and was doing okay for a while.
6 months after that, he started working at FedEx as a driver. He had lithium needs to be at a certain level in your system. Oh, where'd you go?
There you go.
That was perfect.
Yeah. I should also point out that how we mentioned that we were butting heads so much in his like 20s because we couldn't understand why once he was diagnosed as bipolar and our relationship as a family changed completely. He was a child that we would
now appreciate things
and we would
go stuff together. Yeah. He started eating normal food. We would go out to eat together, which we never did before.
The same thing. I think part of the struggle of existing in a family where somebody has mental health issues, undiagnosed mental health issues is you are trying to put them, the context is all wrong.
Yep.
Like me trying to look at Olivia in the context of somebody who has a normal ass brain, and me being like, this kid is so goddamn lazy, I can't even. And then once she's released, for us, there was a period of having to go over relationships because our situation was a little different. First, she's 14, so we have to learn how to
mature.
We have to learn how to parent. And when Olivia attempted suicide, she left us notes that were, "This is all your fault. Everything that's happened is because you are a shitty parent. You never loved me." And as parents and as a family, we had to get over that. But
it's very hard
like,
to hear.
once we worked through those issues, the three of us, and even now to today, like, we have such a different appreciation for each other where we are.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's Olivia acts the way she does sometimes because she's a teenager and other times because she's dealing with things that other teenagers are not. It gave us a sort of a level to expect, and the same for her. Once we understood, we were able to provide a little bit more support where we hadn't been able to do that before. If you're asking me, spending time in Western Psych was probably one of the best things that happened in our relationship and our ability to function as a family. Yeah, getting there and doing all that is scary, and I have giant goosebumps thinking about the terror of all of it. But getting past it and being able to appreciate each other for who you are is just an amazing gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely got more appreciative too. I don't know if it's because his mood was more stable, but like he started in an outpatient clinic called STEP. It's for early psychosis patients, like their first episode basically. And he had a lot of appointments there, and we, obviously we're going to take you to your appointments. He couldn't drive right away, and he was just so appreciative of all of that. And it was like, that's that mutual like appreciation for what each other does is where we wanted it to be before, when we were just like fighting about everything instead.
And I think for him, finally, after years of thinking it was checking labels, that's why he finally had a diagnosis. It's just unfortunate that his sickness became worse, and that's what got him a diagnosis, because he went into psychosis. And
he just had a very severe form of it too. And we started to say he was working like 6 months later. He was going to this STEP clinic. He had an awesome therapist there. They like hit it off big time. He was perfect. That therapist left like in May of the next year. He didn't have another therapist for a while because they were short staffed, and they said he was like their most stable patient at the time. He started going manic again. We were telling them about the red flags we were having, but they're like, no, it's okay. And then they wanted him to have lithium level, but he kept like having excuses why he couldn't go get it drawn. And he started Ubering at night after his FedEx shifts. So he would leave for work for 12 and get home at 2 a.m. That messed his sleep up. It messed his med level up. He was missing doses. And then he basically got manic again. It had been like over since the first time. So I think he thought he was in the clear. They said that's usually when you relapse within the first year. So it was a little bit after that, maybe like 14 months. And that just hit him hard because this was happening again. And he thought he was over it and it would never happen again. And this time, like at home, it was he didn't tell us he was starting to hear voices again, but he was like, I can't be around scissors. I might hurt somebody. I don't want to hurt you. So we knew like something was happening.
He knew he was going into psychosis and that he didn't really have control of himself when he was going in. So he pretty much told us he needed to go back into Western Psych. So like we were just talking about how raw it is there, he knew he needed to go back in there because he was going into psychosis again. So that was pretty much a year.
Like 4th of July.
Yeah, last year at this time, he was in Western Psych for his second psychotic break. And we thought, you just go in for a couple of days, get your medication tweaked. But he ended up being in, I think,
almost a month.
Yeah.
They switched his antipsychotic to a different one, and it just it was way worse than the first one. He had horrible side effects. Like he could not come back. It was just horrible anxiety, horrible depression. He couldn't drive. He couldn't work. He couldn't do anything when he got out there. And he was tired. It was a lot. He was trying. He was still going to all of his appointments. He was still taking the meds they told him to. He was talking to the pharmacist there because things just were not right. They were way worse than even before, and they should be better. And I think he got COVID that August. We were supposed to go on a cruise with my parents. He got COVID. I got COVID. Veda got COVID. So it actually was a good thing because then we didn't have to go on a cruise. We on a cruise.
We didn't have to
hung out at home.
Yeah.
And we tried to do stuff together. We were taking walks because that seemed to help him. I don't know what else to say about that, but
I mean, the second time has to be so much worse because you think you've done what you needed to do. And Sarah, I know you and I had a phone conversation while I was driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, I believe, when you hit the skids for the 15th time. And you were like, this isn't easy, or this is so much worse. And I've done everything. I don't want to adjust my meds. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I am tired of trying to fight. I am tired, not even tired. I think you described it like I am weary to the bottom of my soul. I just don't want this anymore. And you were like, how many times? And I think and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but because you can certainly talk for yourself. I just really enjoy doing it. That how many times, like you're looking to the future and you're like, how many more times and how much worse is this going to get? How many more times am I going to have to sit here at the lowest point and try to claw my way back up? And what's the benefit of that at some point?
Doing it over and over again. And now I know that I'm going to have to do it over again. And
it's got to be so hard. And that's got to be so hard to watch somebody else do that.
And then, like, how do you find out what helps the best to get you out of that? How can others help you? How can your family members help you? What can we do? Try to do anything we can. And it's hard to say sometimes, what is that magic thing?
And when you said that, I'm like, you have to do it every time. I never want you to not do it.
You just take 1 minute at a time and just keep breathing and keep going.
And that's the thing. I don't think there's anything specific to be said. And what sucks even more is, like, I would love, in my case, which is not nearly as severe as what Tanner was going through, but just in my case, I know I would love to be able to tell other people what to do to help me, but I don't even know.
That same thing. Like, a lot of people have told us, like, to help other parents in this situation. And I want to know what to tell them. I don't know what to tell them. I don't know. We try to do everything that they said. Like, literally, the doctor at Western Psych in it's an adult floor. They don't have as much family support as I've seen you guys have. My dad's there. We're there. Morgan's there. Veda's there every day, every visiting hour. And they said that's one of the most important things. But I don't know what else, because then there's had to be more we could do. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think at some point, and I know you guys listened to the episode where we talked about this, where it's just too much. And the sad part is when you have a terminal illness, everybody knows you have a terminal illness. Like, when it's medical, you can look at lab levels and you can look at prognosis, and Jackie being in the profession, when the time is close, everybody knows but when it's mental, there's nothing that person that you love is doing or saying. You can't give them a blood test and be like, oh, it's real bad for you, and I can see where you might be considering not doing this anymore. You don't have that.
I wonder if it'll ever get to that point.
It would be awesome if it did.
It would be great. And people don't understand that there's a physical pain.
Yeah.
There are physical things that go on with your body throughout this. It's not just me feeling bad for myself. Yeah. Not just in my head.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite things. It's just in your head.
Yeah.
Just be happy.
No, you can't.
It's
and people like
sucks.
us that never had that happen to us. And of course, I've been in extreme sadness, sorrow ever since all of this has been happening. It's still not the same as someone having clinical depression or a bipolar that's basically has the clinical depression plus mania and psychosis on top of it. We don't know what that feels like. We can only imagine. And I'm sure our imagining is nowhere close to how bad it is.
Yeah, I think he didn't let on as much as actually that he had going on. And a lot of that was the intrusive thoughts that he's actually hearing. It's not like you think you're hearing them. You're actually hearing these voices, and they're not saying nice things to you either. They're just constant. And
again, for people who don't experience, that's hard. Like, how do you wrap your head around that?
And how do you help them through that?
Right. That's because for us, I'm going to venture a guess here for all four of us. That's unbelievable. How does that even happen? How you can't wrap your head around it. So it makes it even harder to be able to do something. It leaves you in a helpless situation.
Yeah, and the stuff that works one time isn't going to work the next time. Having conversations with Sarah where I'm like, get the fuck up and do what you need to do isn't going to work all the time.
When the last time he was in, when you would visit him and you're just visiting a different person. When he was in that psychosis, he would just look at you like he didn't know you. And it was sometimes scary because he just wasn't himself and the things he was saying, and you just have to leave and you get in the elevator and cry, and then you go back the next day just hoping he's going to
have a better day,
come out of it. And
some days were better. Some days we could have a nice visit while he ate dinner and he was like, oh, this food is so good. And you could at least like talk to him, maybe joke. He was always like a cute jokester. My dad would sit there and color pictures with him. They're not even allowed to have pencils or pens like they have crayons. Some days were good. Some days were really bad. And it's just, you didn't know what you were walking into each day. And that's what made it really hard.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about Tanner's last day, or we can skip right to how we can help?
I can talk about it. So because we missed the cruise, we had planned on, and I had the feeling that Tanner was still like not able to go on a plane. So like we said, it worked out that he got COVID. And it was like, hey, you're preventing the family from going on this cruise because you're too anxious for a plane. We think it worked out. So we ended up planning a vacation where we could drive to. So we had a vacation planned, and I had come home from work on that Thursday before the weekend that we were leaving, starting my vacation. And he met me in the garage where our safe is. And he had asked me if I had changed the code to the safe. And I said, yeah, you actually had me do it when you were in psychosis. He had me take his gun and lock it in the safe because he knew it wasn't safe for him. So he said he wanted to look at his coins. He collected rare coins, and I really didn't think anything of it. So he got the coins out, and we looked at them at the table, and him and I watched a movie. Jackie got home from work. We ate dinner.
Yeah, we made like a grocery list for vacation.
We took a walk.
We took a walk on the trail.
Yeah.
Veda had been staying with us since he was home from the hospital, but she was doing her yoga certification. So she left that Thursday to go. She was going away for a retreat for the weekend. And that was the first time she wasn't staying at our house that night, Thursday night. We asked him if he wanted to go see her. She was going on vacation with us. We were leaving Monday, but he said, no, I'm good. I'll just stay here. And she would always make sure he took his meds. She wasn't there. So I'm like, you're going to take your meds? He said, yeah. So we went to bed at 10:30. Now he was having this, eye twitching from things like one of those side effects. What are they called? Oh my gosh. The like ticking side effects from some mental health medications. He was thinking it was that. He said it was hard to sleep because when he would shut his eyes, they would twitch. So he might sleep on the chair. That's what he said, downstairs, in the living room. Our bedrooms are upstairs. He said, don't worry if you hear me going downstairs, I might be sleeping on the chair because it feels a little easier to sleep that way. We're like, okay, yeah, we thought that was like a normal response. Yeah, I'm sorry you have that twitching, but if that helps. Anyways, so we all went to bed at 10:30 and I got up at 7 to take the dog out and his car wasn't there. He hadn't been driving. So that was definitely a worrisome thing that his car wasn't there. And I was like caught off guard. I called his girlfriend thinking he went there to her house because he has done that before, like in the middle of the night, like he wanted to see her.
Yeah.
She didn't answer the phone and it was early, like they sleep in, they don't get up that early. And so I called her mom and she answered and I said, is Tanner's car there? Like I can't, he's not in his room. His car's not here. And she said no. So I was at the same time like running up and Tanner's car's gone and he's not at Veda's. And I went into the bathroom and Ed came right up. Where are you? Where are you? I'm like, I'm in the bathroom. His gun is missing. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And he said it's not in the safe.
It's just something that like I started putting things together that it was weird that his car wasn't there and that he had me open the safe. And so that was the first thing I checked.
Yeah, it was so like nonchalant that Ed didn't even tell me he opened the safe or they looked at the coins earlier. It was just like an everyday thing. Like he did like to look at his coins and stuff.
Right. And
we called 911. The police came and they were very good. Actually, we told him what was happening, that we didn't think he would hurt anybody, but that he might hurt himself. And they took immediate missing persons report. They put out his license plate. I looked on Find Your iPhone and his last location was down by the trail where we literally walked on the trail every night that we could. 3 of us or 4 of us, sometimes my dad, sometimes Morgan. Whoever was home, we walked on the trail. I said, that's the only other place I can think of that he went. That location was from like the night before, 11:30 at night. We had gone to bed at 10:30. But it didn't say which entrance, and we've gone on the trail different entrances. So we started at one entrance, and I guess they started at another. And he wasn't at the one we went to, so we started towards the other one. We saw like a police car speeding that way, so we thought they may have found his car. And we got there and his car was there at the trail like parking lot. They had it roped off and we were really worried that he would be in there, but he wasn't. So that started like a search party, and that was maybe 8:00 in the morning at that point. There was several police, there was search dogs, they had drone teams.
They wouldn't let us go search for him on the trail.
Good.
They said, you stay here because the bloodhounds, it will confuse their scent. So they basically had us away from everything. They did a couple different times we went home to get a piece of clothing of his, but 3 or 4 different times,
we did it wrong.
We did it wrong.
You're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to put it in a bag. No one told us. And then finally, like the real
eventually the bloodhound
master
guy, the officer and his dog, went to put gloves on and that type of thing. And by this time, the township police had put out on their page that the trail was shut down due to an active incident. And so Jackie shared that. Friends and family started coming to the trailhead to be there for us and for Tanner.
Yeah.
And
they found him like maybe 11:30. They had been coming back and forth, like, we're still trying, we're still searching. Yeah. One of the dogs did find him maybe almost a mile down the trail.
Yeah, they had drones, and I think Jackie's dad said they called the drones down, and when I saw the 2 officers walking towards us, I knew.
And that's the worst moment when they tell you. You knew, but you didn't hear it. So I hear them telling us that all the time.
And Morgan was there. Veda felt she was just apologizing for I should have been there, and it was just so. Yeah, that's
nothing can possibly prepare you for that.
No.
Yeah.
You knew it doesn't.
No, not at that point.
Yeah, I knew just the fact that he had taken the gun. And I knew he was struggling. And in the way back of your head, you're putting the pieces together, but at the same time, you're not really wanting to put those together. That. You're wanting to see them either come out of the trail with him, or possibly he just went down. I wanted to sit down there and sit on a bench and think things through. That didn't happen. So
you go ahead, Sarah. I talk a lot.
I was just going to say, we're not done yet. We have some more things that we want to talk to you guys about, but I appreciate you guys so much for coming on and doing this with us, especially considering we had a pretty much very similar talk just a week ago. I know it can't possibly be easy to continue to talk about it, especially when you're sharing these details. I thank you guys a ton for being willing to do this.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is get parents to listen to things, because I think nobody expects this to happen, and we all need to be listening to it. We all need to be hearing it.
Yeah.
So that's my hope, that we will get to share your story and then it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And that we as parents be able to advocate a little bit harder, maybe at those early stages. And of course, we're going to get into talking about what you guys have done since September, what with March 4th and everything. And that's really what we want to get out there. But I just wanted to thank you guys for
100%.
being willing to do this.
Thank
Of
you.
course. Yeah, thanks for having us. I just hope we have told this story a couple times now, so it does make it a little bit easier, and it does make it easier that he didn't die in vain. If there's anything we can do to help someone else from this really hard, difficult thing, we want to do it. I don't know what we can do, but if this helps anybody, then we'll do it.
You're doing it. Yeah, I think you're doing it. I mean, right here is doing it. I know I've mentioned on episodes that you guys amaze me. And one of the first things that amazed me was when I read Tanner's story and finding out that it wasn't even a year ago.
Yeah.
And everything that you guys have done since. And a lot of people would have just crumbled. And instead of crumbling, you guys are standing up and doing something.
We do crumble sometimes, but
and I can't imagine. Yeah, you are absolutely allowed to crumble. And I think that everybody in your lives would be worried if you didn't crumble a little bit.
But Tanner knew how we are and that we like to keep doing things, and it maybe got on his nerves some, but he always appreciated it. So if we could do something that helps somebody else in his name, I think he would appreciate it.
For sure. Absolutely. Sis, I'm sorry. What were you going to say when
I forget?
Okay.
I have attention deficit problems. I forgot already. So I'll pretend like I didn't say anything and just feed off of you. Yeah, you guys, thank you so much. I know that just talking about this stuff has been so helpful for me, because even though it's not even similar, having gone through something
that is similar.
Yeah.
It's hard.
A teeny
it's so
bit
hard.
like it has helped me to understand that all of the things that I was feeling weren't just because I'm a spastic moron. It's just how you feel when your kid goes through this stuff, and being able to hear the story and being able to talk about what happened with me and Olivia, it's so much better for me. So if we can help get that message out to just one other person, I love it. And oh, this is what I was going to say. I remember now. Ding, ding.
I'll just keep yammering away until it comes to me.
Shut up. I made a career doing that. Jacki, you made a Facebook post, and I absolutely found a lot of inspiration in the fact that you guys didn't shy away from sharing this from the very beginning, when that emotion had to be so raw and so tough that you made a Facebook post about how you were getting Tanner's clothes ready, and the courage of being able to do that, and having the perspective that you had about Tanner's death. It really touched a nerve. Again, having had the thought and the fear of having to go through the same thing myself, whether it's with Sarah or whether it's with Olivia, and having that kind of perspective really helped me understand not just what I was going through or you were going through, but what Sarah and Olivia go through when they're feeling really bad. And it was lovely. And I know it had to be hard and terrible. And
it's just not fair. Like, I should have been pressing his suit for his wedding.
Right.
And like, he had such awesome potential, and it wasn't able to be brought out. Like, I wasn't able to see what happened later with him. He wasn't able to be with us to make more memories, but also he's not suffering anymore. I don't want him to suffer at all. And that was hard. So hard to see your kid suffer. Like we've said, especially Ed was so good about, I wish I could take your pain away, because it is physically painful. And if it was painful for us to see him like every day, I was like, what can I do?
Yeah, but the same thing I was telling him not to do, I was finding myself Googling, like, I just wanted to find something that be like, hey, this is going to help you. This is it. Here's a study and wherever that we could take you to that's going to flip that switch and you're no longer going to have this.
Yeah. And then moving on from that, just being able to share things like that immediately. How did you guys get from there to March 4th? How did you sit down, process your emotions, and immediately pivot from what had to be like a lot of grief, sorrow,
I mean, to be
self
honest, there's been so many people before me that had tragedy happen and do good things. They've had scholarships for their kid's name, or we have another friend that has a nonprofit, which we should give them a shout out.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to, like I said before, just not have him die in vain. I wanted something good to come from something like so hard. I wanted something, and I didn't know what. Like, a scholarship really wasn't like working for me with that. And when he was in the hospital the second time, you're not allowed to wear shoes with shoestrings. And we noticed a lot of people in the waiting room, visiting room, whatever, they didn't have shoes because they had them without the strings and they're walking around with them like that. But Tanner had Crocs and he was allowed to wear them. He wore them things everywhere. No lie. Like, they were wet, they were muddy, they were on the trail, they were in the hospital, like everywhere. That's where he wore what he wore. I guess they were just so comfortable. I don't know. So one day I was sitting on the shuttle going to work, and there was a nurse next to me that had Crocs on her feet. She was wearing Crocs, even though we're really not supposed to. But anyway, we won't go there. You can cut that out. I'm like, and I should backstep. So since people didn't have shoes, really, there was another gentleman. They would pace the halls a lot. Like, it seemed like to calm them, especially the psychosis floor. They were just walking the halls. So they're walking and they're there a month, 2 months, sometimes 4 months, wearing either slipper socks or shoes without laces in them, like clunking around. And the one gentleman that he was like friends with from walking so much asked like desk if they had any shoes in their lost and found. And they did have a few pairs, but none fit him. And Tanner asked him what size he wore, and it was the same size as Tanner wore. Of course, we had an extra pair there for the shower or whatever, and he gave him those shoes. And we're like, what? It seems little, like, to give us to do Croc drive, but that's where it started. Let's maybe do a Croc drive to give these patients some shoes. And then we were talking about the sweatshirts too, because it's drafty and they're walking in there and they're going to activities and stuff, and they have a hospital gown on. So we thought of the crew neck sweatshirts too, because they're not allowed to have zippers, strings, or hoods. So that's where it like started with that. That's what our first project is. But there are other things down the line that we would like to do as well.
It's just that personal connection to Western Psych, that where he was, and that Chris, that it's kind of raw.
And I feel like a lot of the patients that don't have visitors or someone to bring them shoes, there's a lot like that. We saw some getting discharged, several, while we were waiting in the waiting room or whatever to go visit, that were leaving the hospital by Uber. They had no one there to pick them up. They're not going to have anyone there to bring them shoes or shirts.
Right.
And it's not the most important thing that they need, but maybe it would help them feel like someone cared about them and brought them something to wear so that they could be comfortable.
It means a lot.
Yeah,
it definitely means a lot.
For Olivia, Olivia grew up pretty sheltered, right? And we live in a pretty homogeneous community, right? There's not a lot of diversity around here.
That was a big word.
I looked it up, dude. Having her in Western Psych and seeing people with different backgrounds, it's raw, it's scary. And Olivia didn't have enough underwear when we took her there. And I think I might have shared this with you guys. I had no idea how to get her underwear. And it's such a tiny
Another reason
thing.
You shouldn't wear underwear. Just stop wearing underwear.
Listen, everybody should wear underwear. You're super gross.
God.
Crocs, crew necks, and underwear. That's our next one, huh?
Get the little March 4th logo on them, like the days of the week.
Underwear.
Yeah, there you go.
We took him a duffel bag. They wouldn't let him have the duffel bag because it had a zipper. So they had to put it aside. They take the stuff out that they can have, put them in like a paper bag, take him to the room. But that takes 4 days.
Right. By the time the underwear got from Kohl's, like in the Kohl's bag with the receipt, package all closed, by the time it got to Western Psych, through all of the security screening they're taking the poor girl's underpants through, I'm not sure. By the time they do all of that, she was like, this is great. I'm coming home tomorrow. And When I found out what you guys were doing, the Crocs and the sweatshirts, I called her and told her. And Olivia doesn't tend to get super emotional about this part of her life, but I could hear her on the phone getting emotional about it.
I hope it
This
helps.
She experienced it from the inside, like knowing that you grow up pretty quick in there.
It's very eye-opening.
Kids. Yeah.
It's really where are his clothes? And they're like, oh, it still has to go through this person. We're like, but he has no clothes to wear. Can you do it now? No.
Right.
Okay.
So we should say, because I'm not sure, we keep mentioning March 4th, but I don't think we really gave a
Oh, no, we did it.
explanation of what March 4th is. So March 4th is a nonprofit organization that you guys have founded. I'll let you guys take over and give us information about March 4th, and we'll include links and whatever else we need to in show notes.
Okay. Yeah, we were trying to figure out the name, what name to make. We wanted to do this Crocs thing first. And I worked through like the hospital and everything. And they actually have a nonprofit through Western Psych that's called Making Minds Matter. And they said we could like join in on theirs or make our own. And we were like back and forth of what to do. But basically, if we joined on theirs, we would just make it like a one-time thing. But we wanted to try to do more and sustain it more. So we decided to open our own, not knowing one thing of how to open a nonprofit. It's a lot more steps than you think. And it took months to get open and approved and everything. So we finally did, but before that, we had to think of a name that wasn't MPA. Like you can't have the same name as someone else's business. And there was like 8 of us trying to figure out names. And we were like back and forth on a bunch, but we all agreed on March 4th is Tanner's birthday. And our like mission statement, I don't have a word for it, but basically helping people move forward in difficult times. And our purpose is to provide needed items or support like things for mental health patients and their families to help them get through all of this. Like I would like to even in the future do some kind of family liaison, like peer-to-peer, to help them navigate this whole system, because that was like one of the biggest, hardest things to figure out. We're like, what the hell is going on when we walk in there? We don't know what to do. And if they had like a peer-to-peer family liaison, not just a patient liaison, I think that would help other parents get through this whole process.
First-time parents.
Yeah, especially first time. And we were better the second time.
Yeah. Like, where's the cafeteria? Yes.
I didn't even know where to call to find out how he was doing in the morning, or that the social worker needs to call you. I didn't know they would take our keys and our phone and here. I don't know. Like what?
Nothing. When like Olivia and I, when this happened, Olivia and I went to Washington Hospital. Because it's a medical emergency, I got to take you to the emergency room. That's the best one. So, yeah. And then they were like, okay, now we have to find a place to put her. And it took them, we got to Washington Hospital at 2:00 in the morning on Friday. And David and I finally made it back home 4:00 in the morning on Saturday. Or Sunday. Like Olivia and I spent a whole 18 hours just staring at each other. Like,
wow.
And they took her phone, they took my phone. Like when you're in the little holding tank before they find you someplace, like they give you food, but everything is sealed. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. I had to leave the door open when I went to the bathroom. Like I can't imagine doing that in Western Psych. At least I was in Washington Hospital and they had put up some wallpaper.
It was very similar.
And then
we might look at there's other psychiatric units, like maybe I don't know if Washington has one, but like Jefferson has one. Like we are thinking about other places too, because depending on how things go with everything. Like an outpatient clinic was really great. And I don't know if they could use some sort of patient help, like navigating systems and like life in general after they're out of the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many ways. Sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just going to ask. So as of now, you guys do have a Facebook page. Yeah. So we'll share that, get people to start following that. What else can we do to help? Are we able to just make a straight donation to March 4th, or does it have to be part of a campaign like with the Crocs and crew necks, or?
You can make a straight donation. We do have a Venmo and a PayPal or take checks. We're also going to have, hopefully on Thursday, I'll have pictures of the shirts. We're going to have a shirt fundraiser for anyone that wants to purchase a shirt. We'll have t-shirts and crew necks the crew neck's going to be the same as we're giving the patients. And then we also have t-shirts. As soon as I get some good pictures of them, we're going to make a fundraiser for those. So that will help go towards the patient's shirts too.
All right. I'll take 3 of everything you're selling.
Okay. I should shout her out. There's a place in Swiss Alpine Village in Elizabeth called Made with Patience. Her name is Patience, and she is helping us with the shirts.
Nice.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. You
Yeah,
can get
I
on
made the
looking
notes.
that up and adding some links for that.
Okay.
We'll definitely. And then did you catch the name of their friends nonprofit that we can link in there as well?
It's called Michael's Ovation, and they have a Facebook page too. They're having a golf outing, I think, pretty soon, August for his.
Okay.
And Michael was 14, I believe. So their nonprofit they provide books, scholarships. There was like a place that Michael liked to go to ride his bike that they would pay for admissions. I think it's since closed, but they're doing a lot of good things there too.
They did something with the Humane Society because I guess he really liked animals.
Yeah.
He passed away from suicide 4 years ago. He was only 14. So they've done a lot of good through them as well.
Yeah.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is also another good place if people are looking to. They do a lot of research and help with mental health suicide prevention research. Bipolar disease is the highest level of suicide risk for any mental illness. I forget what the statistics were. It was like 10 to 30 times more suicide risk for a bipolar patient than the general population.
Wow.
So there's still a lot of work to be done with that. Yeah. So they are doing a lot of work with that. They have several walks. There's one coming up in Pittsburgh through the AFSP. That's not March 4th related, but it's still a good cause that we're going to walk in. Tanner walked with us last year's Pittsburgh walk because Ed's cousin passed away from suicide while he was in the hospital in July. So Tanner walked with us 6 days before he died. But
it's all awareness.
It's all awareness. It all helps stigma and research too. So they're also a good place.
For sure.
That is amazing. And
sis, I think that we should get some merch going.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh,
get some.
We
can do some merch
crossover
stuff.
merch.
We'll have to ask you guys.
Yeah,
I'm in it.
I love your logo. So yeah, we'll get some of yours too.
So our logo, I don't know if you could tell, it's
yeah.
I don't know if you can see
it.
Yeah, we can see it.
It's a fox with angel wings and a halo. The last night that we took our walk with Tanner before he left, we saw a fox on the trail. It wasn't skittish, it just stayed there. And we saw it each time we passed by. And then we
probably 3 different times that weekend after he passed away, we saw foxes in the cul-de-sac and foxes around town, which we had never seen before.
Yeah. So
foxes in Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like
that weren't making pizza? What?
No. So that's why we did the fox.
Yeah.
My brother and sister-in-law came and stayed at a hotel in West Mifflin for the funeral, and there was an origami fox statue like in the lobby. And so that was what it was supposed to be, an origami fox. We got a little less origami looking as we went, but that's basically what the inspiration for it was.
Oh, wow.
I love that. And I am going to speak for all of the funny boners. If there is ever anything that we can volunteer for, if we can go to a walk, if we can.
We love walking.
Okay. Yeah. One of us loves walking. I don't like it very much. If there are burritos we can buy, if there are ever anything that we can do to help you guys, I'm sure we could put the call out. And Jacki, the last thing I wanted to mention was if something that you think somebody that listens to this podcast, the 4 of us, might have some expertise in that you don't have, that can help you with anything that March 4th is working on, let me know, and we can even throw something up on LinkedIn, or we can use our professional networks to see if we can find what you need.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
We're still working on the Crocs, purchasing them. We got the shirts taken care of, and there's a girl from DSW that I have to get to next because the hospital administration just gave me the numbers to how many to order of each size. So I need to go back into her. If for some reason that falls through, we might need someone Crocs that will give us a discount, because Crocs, to be honest, the company Crocs, I've emailed, called, and sent them a mailing letter and no response at all. So I got to get them a different way.
Fabulous.
Oh, wow.
And I went to Bethany College in West Virginia, and they've got a pretty strong group too. So I would be more than happy to throw it out to one of those nerds that were nerdier than me. They could help out too. It is. You would be surprised. I was like, they were like, we can't ask her to do anything. Everyone else here is so much smarter.
That's why I couldn't go to school there.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, guys. We'll post links.
Thank you so much.
But wait, don't go yet.
Okay, I'm not leaving.
Don't go yet. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Not yet.
And all right. And we're